Okay, so now we're finishing up the review, and on 48 it says use the graph at the right to write the equation of the line. There are different ways to do it, but I think the most efficient way would be to use your calculator, except for I just noticed it says point slope form. So there are still different ways to do it. I'll show you two different ways. The way I was going to start doing it was this, with finding what the slope is through the calculator. So we put x here and y here, -3 and 2 for x, and 2 and 4 for the y's. Then go to menu, statistics, stat calculations, then 3. Put x and y there. So this tells you 0.4 and 3.2. So what that really means is 4/10, which is really 2/5. So 2/5 is going to be what we use for the slope. And it says to use point slope form. And so if you use this one, you get y minus 2 equal 2/5 x plus 3, because you're going minus a negative. Or if you use the other one, it's y minus 4 equal 2/5 x minus 2. Either of those would be acceptable. Any questions? If you'd rather not use your formula or calculator for it, you could use your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Do 4 minus 2 and 2 plus 3. So there's your 2/5. So if you'd rather just get your slope this way, you can. It's up to you. Any questions? Oh, and you could have also thought your y values go from 2 to 4, so you're going up 2. And your x values go from -3 to 2, so you're going right 5. So that's 3 ways to get your slope. Either through your formula, either through your calculator or your formula or from the graph. So whatever's best for you. Any questions? Okay. The next one says which line is perpendicular to this. First step would be solve for y on that one. So we have to move the 2x term over, so we've got -2x plus 10. Then we divide everything by 5. So we have y equal -2/5 x plus 2. Now the key word on this one is perpendicular. So don't try to look for -2/5. Since it's perpendicular, you want to look for positive 5/2. Since -2/5 times 5/2 equal -1. It's a little extra writing, but basically look for the 5/2. So for this answer choice, -2 is your slope, so it's not that. For this one, -5 is your slope because you move it over. So it's either going to be B or D. And I noticed that if I move the 2x term over on this one, it's going to be negative. So this is y equal -2/5 x plus 2. Now, that could be like a trick answer, because that'd be if it's parallel. because the negative 2/5 matches this negative 2/5. So it's not B. What we're doing is we're solving for y on this one. So we get negative 4y equal negative 10x plus 8. And divide by negative 4. So y equal a negative 10 divided by a negative 8 is a positive 5/2. You can get that this way. Positive 5/2. So there's your 5/2 x minus 2. And again, 5/2 is what we're looking for, and so that's D. Any questions? Okay, now one that's like very fast. You see the 90-degree angle from the box, and you see the 71. This is your remote interior angles, and the A is your exterior. So you basically do 90 plus 71, get 161, and that's A. So again, remember these are your remote interior. They're far away from the exterior, and so all you do is add. And then for B, these are supplementary because they're a linear pair, there's a straight angle, there's different ways to describe it. So you basically do 180 minus 161 and you get 19. So that's your B answer. Any questions? By the way, if you want to bring scratch paper, you can to your final. Then just turn that in. Turn in your scratch paper with your name on it. Okay, so then 51, name your pair of angles that are a linear pair. It would have to be either these or these. So something that has F in the middle. AFE is here and CFD is there. AFE and CFD. Those would be vertical angles. So it's not that one. AFC, EFD. Those would also be vertical angles. And DFE and AFE. Okay, so this is going to be the correct one. Now, here's an easy way to do it. If you see two letters that are exactly the same, then that's going to be the right one. FE is in both of them. They share that segment. AFE is here and DFE is here. They share that, and so that's our answer for the linear pair. Any questions? Okay. Then this gives you certain statements with your letters, and it wants you to do S to P. So that means you do your adjacent and supplementary first, and you do the P next, which is the linear pair. Now both of these say linear pair. Now the difference is this says S arrow P or S leads to P, and that's what we have on an if-then statement. The other one has if and only if, which would look like S and then the arrows both directions to P. So this is going to be A instead. Don't use the if and only if it's an arrow just going one direction. So that's the difference between the two. So it's only going one direction, so it's an if-then statement. The next one says angle 1 and 2 are supplementary, so one of them is acute. Remember, a counterexample proves something false. And this would prove it true. Well, attempt to prove it true. Same thing here and here. So we would want the 90 and 90 because 90 plus 90 is 180, which is supplementary. So that's going to be our answer. In other words, if you have two right angles, then they're supplementary. That's one of the cases. Otherwise, you either have one obtuse and one acute. Now, also what I'm noticing is if you take a little bit longer on this question and add these numbers together, 104 plus 76 gives you 180. But 35 plus 149 gives you 184. And so you should rule it out that reason also. And 35 plus 55 is 90. So I think on that one they're trying to confuse you because supplementary adds up to 180 and complementary would be 90. So really, the only ones that add up to 180 are either A or D, and A doesn't prove that false. It's an example of something that's true. Let me say example. Example of true. Any questions about that? Okay. Then this one is about a pattern, and we notice our numbers are getting smaller, but they're not negative. So we're basically approaching 0. This is an example of one where your limit appears to be 0. You're dividing by 16 repeatedly. Okay, so this one, the limit appears to be 0. It sort of looks like this, high up, and then it goes like that. That's an example of as x approaches infinity, which is big, y approaches 0. Now this is a little advanced, and you've probably never seen it, but I'm just showing you the idea. You're basically dividing by what, 4 or 16? 4, right. So you could do it that way. 1 over parentheses 16 times 4. It's 1/64. And then on this one, I'm going to abbreviate it a little bit. I'm just going to do 64 times 4. I get 256. So I'm going to want 1 over that. And then we need to do that again. So that gives you 1024, or 1024. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. Okay, now this one gives you a lot of coordinates, and it wants the length of x, y, and zw. So my first step on this would be to draw it. It says respectively, that means x corresponds to the -6, the y corresponds to the -4, the z corresponds to the +4, and the w corresponds to the 8. So again, it may help if you draw a picture. We're looking for x, y, so between here and here. Remember, when we're finding lengths, there's a few different ways to do it. You could act like it's 0 and then go to 1 and then 2, so 2 is your answer, which is right. Or you could use your formula, -6 minus a -4 would be -6 plus 4, which is -2, and you have to take your absolute value of all of that to get your +2. Remember, length has to be positive because it's a distance. You can't have -2 feet. It'd have to be +2 as an example. Any questions for that part? Okay, so then it's talking about ZW, and this one's easy. You just do 8 minus 4. Get 4. There's other ways to get that also. You could say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But, you know, again, this one, I think if they're both positive, you'll know how to do that really fast. Then, are they congruent? The numbers are not the same. They look different lengths, so they're not congruent. Okay, so again, we're done now. Here's your list, but it's also typed on Math Excel if you're interested. Remember, for any topic, if you really wanted to, you could go to Khan Academy and search for y-intercept, for example, or corresponding angles, or whatever you want to. And I've also got some other videos out there too, like for Professor Math, or Professor Dave.